What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Stryker, joined as always by the one and only Joe Pisapia, and we have a fantastic show for you today. We're talking baseball, like Carew and Vida Blue. We're talking football, like Saquon and Scatterboo. Oh, look at that. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good show. Preston Polished behind the glass on the ones and twos. Rob Zombie on the sticks. This is the team, folks. And I want a quick reminder, if you want to be a part of this team, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. Joey P loves to interact on social media. My man, Joey P. I see right now you got one card down, one card up, and you're showing a king. You're going to turn over that other card, man? We're going to have fun today, my man. What's up?
Oh, my friend, I got to say, I was a little worried there. We were trying to find a rhyme for Saquon. I guess Roquan. I mean, that might have been a way you could go there, but I was so impressed. He's right. It is going to be a good show when you get that rhyming scheme right at the top there. Freestyling Matt Stryker. We got NFL news. Yesterday we had the first of the big expert league drafts. That was on Sirius XM Radio. It was hosted there, and we were live for it with some of the best minds in fantasy football and me. I was there too drafting, and it was I am the three-time champion of that expert league. But anyway, sorry, clearing my throat there. I know it was a cough on television, but it was imperative. But we're going to start with baseball today, Matt, because the headlines are here and the trade deadline is done and the dust is settled. So we're going to take a look at some of the moves that have been made. And let's start here with some stars that are returning to whence they came, starting with Eugenio Suarez going back to the Mariners. Now, from a fantasy perspective, not the best ballpark move. I think we can all agree on that. He had struggled with the Mariners for a while, but then when he went to Arizona recently, obviously the second half of last season just became a monster, and it's carried over into this season, hitting home runs everywhere. However, it's a great move by the Mariners. I love what they've done here. They've gone and gotten Naylor as well the week before. Yep. Why there wasn't just one deal for everybody right away, I don't know. But that's okay. Now you've got Naylor, you've got Suarez, you've got a Rosarena, you've got a fella named Cal Raleigh, and also Julio Rodriguez in that lineup. Matt, this is what the Mariners needed, I feel like, to really lengthen that lineup. Great job by them. And, of course, Carlos Correa going back to the Astros. They desperately need help there. Isaac Perez is going to miss a couple months here with the Astros. That is not good for that offense. Jordan Alvarez has missed a significant time. They're still waiting to figure out his timetable. So these are two moves, two guys going back to situations they're familiar with. Who do you think is going to be more impactful, Suarez or Correa, from a fantasy perspective going forward rest of season?
All right, it's a great question. As you know, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. So let's get smart and figure out how we can take advantage of this. To Joe's question, from a fantasy perspective, it's a Eugenio Suarez over Carlos Correa, just based on the offensive production. Most fantasy leagues are going to reward the things that Suarez does, but be careful because he strikes out a lot. Which brings me to my next point. How do we bet on these two teams and these two moves? Well, with Suarez, you're always looking at the home run prop, but also think about the opposing pitcher. Suarez strikes out a ton. Maybe the K prop ticks up, maybe a half or one. Think about, also, Joe mentioned that lineup, run production, first five, team totals. These kind of things are really going to help. When it comes to the Astros, I think the Correa move is just more of stasis. Keep things where they are. What the Astros do or what the Astros are going to do, it doesn't necessarily replace the production that Paredes surprisingly has given this team up until the injury, but at least it puts a veteran mind, a veteran eye, and a veteran at-bat. The Correa deal pays off in one or two at-bats somewhere down the line at the end of the season or the postseason. The Suarez deals pays dividends all the time. Joe?
Other big moves, the Padres add Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles. Laureano having a fantastic season, really plus defender there too, so a good situation there for him. And O'Hearn, another bat they can certainly use. The Phillies finally got their closer. How many times have I waxed on this program over the years, Matt? The Phillies, every single year, they get to the playoffs, and every single year they don't have somebody to lock down the ninth inning, and it bites them in the rear end. So Duran's that guy. He had his big debut with a big song and the spider and the whole thing yesterday. Good times there for Duran and the Phillies. And the Blue Jays getting a starter, a potential ace in Shane Bieber, but he hasn't thrown a pitch yet in the big leagues, recovering from Tommy John surgery. So let's talk about Bieber here, because this is a interesting deal for the Blue Jays, not just for this season, but also next year in keeper leagues as well, because I imagine the Blue Jays are going to pick up that option. He gives them a really good frontline starter 1-2 combination with Gausman in that rotation. So I really like what the Blue Jays did here. It's a big risk. I think it's going to pay off. What are your thoughts on this acquisition of Bieber, not just for this year, but also for the Jays in 2026?
From a fantasy baseball perspective, I've always been a Shane Bieber guy. I've reached for him in the past, and he's consistently paid dividends. And I was crestfallen when this injury came, but I kept an eye on him. Now he has made his final rehab start, and I'm confident in saying that Shane Bieber will pitch in a Blue Jays uniform next 2.5 weeks, maybe. So this is something. And yeah, it really puts the Blue Jays in a position where they don't have to go out and go through the rigors of the market to get that big name pitcher. They have him now. We also have talked about how players don't necessarily like to go north of the border to Toronto because of the tax differential and then the conversion rate. So now that they have Bieber in their clutches, they're going to want to keep him. You're 100% correct. It's a great frontline starter. And also just want to add to the Padres acquisitions, remember the park factor. People are going to trace what Ryan O'Hearn was doing. He was doing it at Camden. So I would take it with a grain of salt what he can do down the stretch at Petco. Joe?
All right, fair enough. More moves as well. The Yankees and the Mets really went after bullpen help here. So that's very important because I think the Dodgers have kind of set that precedent over the last couple of years, which is playoffs are now won and lost in the bullpen. The starters go 5 innings, going to get us through 5 competitively, and then we're going to highly specialize you so you can't get to that third time around the lineup against a starting pitcher. Maybe you get to the third with some of the elite guys, but typically you're not seeing that most of the time. And now the Mets and Yankees are following that blueprint clearly as well. So you've got Mets adding Ryan Helsley, Gregory Soto, Rogers, all to that bullpen.
Yeah.
Rogers is interesting too because he gives you that different look, that underarm delivery there. And then you've got Bednar and Doval going to the Yankees, which is kind of funny here because all the acquisitions this weekend did not necessarily go the Yankees' way. But
Wasn't
I
it a combined
do believe
ERA of 9? It was something like that. Right?
Something like that. It was something like that. It wasn't great. And the best part was seeing a bunch of Yankee fans yesterday when I was in the city and talking to some friends of mine who were Yankee fans who I hadn't seen in a while. Hey, how are you? I'm great, except for the Yankees. Literally 3 people I talked to yesterday gave me that same exact thing. I'm doing great. Yeah, everything's good. Stupid Yankees, though, or freaking Yankees. Like it was just, it's so, you want to talk about crestfallen? They're crestfallen right now. But again, this is the right path. It's the right thing to do. If it works or not, it's to be determined, but there's still plenty of baseball left to go. I think maybe also the most surprising things is some of the guys that we thought were going to get dealt at this deadline did not. The 2 Marlins pitchers, Edward Cabrera, Sandy Alcantara, did not get moved. We thought for sure Alcantara going into the season would be gone. No Luis Robert deal. Mitch Keller stays put with the Pittsburgh Pirates, which I cannot understand that at all. From a Pirates perspective, they're not competing this year, probably not next year. What are you doing? Go get more prospects, facing a labor dispute coming up in 2027. So which of these 3 guys now, I guess, or even 4, if you want to throw Cabrera in that mix too, do you think is going to be best served by staying put with their current team?
Okay. Yeah, so you hit it on the head there. You look at a team like the Pirates and you say, well, why didn't they? Well, let's think about this. Next year, should Jones recover from the Tommy John surgery, should Bubba get called up, you now have a 1, 2, 3, 4 of Skeens, Chandler, Keller, Jones, and whomever else is out there. That, to me, really says a lot. And, Joe, if they look above them in the standings, look at a team like the Milwaukee Brewers. You were the one that hit it with the Brewers. Look where they are now. You talked about how you don't think the Cubs can keep pace. The Brewers have the pitching to do it. It's going to come down to pitching. And lastly, with these bullpen moves, these American League teams are playing 6-inning baseball and looking to turn it over, and we need to bet on them that way, Joe.
Yeah, we do. Again, the Mariners, I think, are huge winners over this deadline too, adding offense. Now, if that pitching stays healthy, they're going to be formidable in that American League. And the Marlins keeping those guys really interesting because, next year you do have Alcantara and Cabrera going into the season. They are in 3rd place currently. Could they contend for a wild card with the emergence of Kyle Stowers and how good he has been? It's not impossible. The Marlins have done it before, but I would expect the Braves bounce back as well. So we'll get back to some more baseball a little later on in the show. But when we come back, we're going to talk football. Training camps have begun. We've got the latest news, buzz, and injuries. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! and lost pages. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. Let me say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game, but somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, just giving you everything you need in order to dominate. And Joe, I've said this, and folks out there, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And if you like the people with whom you do it, that also really helps. Before we came back on the air during the break, our producer Preston and Joe are having an organic conversation. They were talking about the Colts, and Joe's giving them the advice, and they're going back and forth. And I just sat back and I was like, that's what I love about SportsGrid, right? Is that everyone, no matter who they are and what they do, they have a genuine love of sports and a genuine love of making money on that love of sports. Joe, we talk about it on the show. Everyone I know has some type of revolving account, your Netflix, your Spotify, whatever. Why not pay that or pay some of your grocery bills with your simple love of sports? And football is where it's at, and you're the guy. The Fantasy Black Book is out there right now. It's changing the way people are winning. Go get it during the next break, not right now. Joe, let's talk some football here. I am a Commanders fan ever since the days of John Riggins and Art Monk. Terry McLaurin requests a trade. Now, while that's all well and good, it's simply a request. So I'm going to start with that. Are the Commanders trading Terry McLaurin? Unless it's for Micah Parsons, you've got to give me some kind of deal that's going to make sense here.
Man, I don't understand how they could even entertain the idea of getting rid of him. I just can't. Terry McLaurin has been the stalwart guy here for years now. We're talking about all those straight years of 1,000 yards receiving with all those horrific quarterbacks that we're throwing in the football. Last year on the show, our favorite bets, right, were Derrick Henry going over his rushing yards, 950.5, which we laughed at, and he made it by week 9. And the other one was Terry McLaurin, then that was 925.5 receiving yards. And guess what? He smashed that too. So he has tried to hold out. He has tried to hold in. And now he's requesting a trade. Those are the only 3 things you could do in contract negotiations in the NFL. So he's trying all 3 of them.
How about that?
Right.
Just pay to your contract. And you know what I mean?
Well,
Such
but
an
this is it for
thing
him.
to do.
It isn't. It isn't, because he's the guy that has been the leader there. He's absolutely crucial to the success of Jaden Daniels. And if you look what this team did last year, do they still do that without Terry McLaurin? And I don't think the answer is yes. They don't. So Terry McLaurin gets his one chance here to really cash in and get paid and get that big contract. Otherwise, I think the Commanders are really putting themselves behind the 8 ball here. And the tough part here is also, just because you signed Deebo Samuel doesn't mean Deebo Samuel can step into the shoes of what Terry McLaurin did for that offense. You took a rookie quarterback last year, and you went not only to a road victory over the Buccaneers, but you also a road victory and an ass kicking at that of the Detroit Lions. And then you get within a game of the Super Bowl. You lose to the Super Bowl champs who ended up just dusting the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So no shame in that. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Hopefully, from a fantasy perspective, he gets done soon, that deal, because you don't want him to be too late to camp. Those guys end up getting soft tissue injuries and all kinds of problems. So the longer this goes, the more tenuous it is. So we'll keep an eye on it. I always say follow the money, Matt, and Cortland Sutton got paid. I've been talking about him quite a bit this offseason. He's really a value in drafts right now. He is going to be, I think, a copy and paste season year over year. Sure, Evan Ingram's there. Mims is there too. You have R.J. Harvey now, but I still say Cortland Sutton is the go-to guy for Bo Nix. Luther Burden for the Chicago Bears, a little up and down in camp. That's some of the news we've been hearing. Something's good, something's not so good. So he seems like a bit of a work in progress, but he knew going in, I think a lot of us, that he was a bit of a problem child too. So we'll see how that works out with new head coach Ben Johnson. And then the Bengals releasing Zach Moss. What does this mean? I think even more confidence going forward with Chase Brown as an RB1 in 2025. But Matt, you're a Commanders guy. Do you really think that the Commanders can afford to go into the season without Terry McLaurin on board, happy and ready to go?
No. Even with the flexibility of Deebo Samuel, you want McLaurin on that field because of Daniels' comfort with McLaurin. I would not want to enter this season having Daniels go, all right, I'm confident in my skills, but I kind of miss my favorite pillow. I think if you come to McLaurin, and maybe the NFL can start a new trend here, go with an incentive-laden deal. What are you looking for? You're looking for 4 years, $92 million? I'll tell you what, if we win the Super Bowl, I'll give you $45 million. Think about it from that perspective, and then maybe these players would start to turn it around a little bit. But there's a lot of news to talk about here. I'm more interested in guys that are hurt. Who's hurt? Are they going to start? Things like that. What do you know?
All right, what we do know so far is Joe Mixon is going to miss most of camp here with a foot issue. Some people calling it an ankle issue. So it's kind of funny the different vibe you're getting from it.
That's
and that's great.
What is it? No.
Exactly. What is it?
The high ankle sprain is different than turf toe.
Well, exactly. But I think, it could be potentially just something, of both scenarios where he had, maybe twisted something and it was something that was connected down to the foot. But here's the thing we do know. He's going to miss some time. Nick Chubb is behind him. Pierce is still there as well. But I think what you've seen, and I saw it yesterday in the Expert League draft, Joe Mixon went so far in that draft, and we're still far away from football starting, that it was almost absurd. I ended up drafting him, and I'm not somebody that was looking to ever draft Joe Mixon, but I got him so late in that draft.
Well,
he's basically my fifth RB. Yeah.
Does the offensive line concern you in any way?
Well, it's no worse really than it was last year, and he had a career year last year. So I think the idea is, they're just going to kind of, hope that they can get him healthy. They won't push him because they have Nick Chubb. But again, if you fall so far in drafts, I believe in price enforcing. Great, for instance, a couple years ago, I was not in on Josh Jacobs at all, right? Josh Jacobs ended up having a fantastic season for the Raiders a few years ago that won me that league. Why? Because I price enforced on a guy that just should not be there anymore. And when you do that, you have nothing to lose, because if a player doesn't perform well, that's okay. You got him way cheaper than cost anyway. But if he does perform better than expectations, and guys like Jacobs, guys like Mixon have track record, that's a big difference maker. So keep an eye out for that. More injuries too. Isaiah Likely is going to undergo foot surgery. They hope they have him back in September at some point. We shall see. That should clear the pathway for Mark Andrews. Anybody really concerned with that share, which I don't think you should be. Xavier Worthy is in concussion protocol. Marvin Harrison dealing with knee soreness. They seem to be okay. But also Najee Harris fell even further to Joe Mixon because there's no timetable. It's shrouded in secrecy. Will he be a Pirate when he returns and wear an eye patch? I have no idea what's going on here with Najee Harris. None of us do. And the worst part is Amari Hampton could theoretically, literally run away with this job if he's given the full month of September to have it. So the fact that it's kind of shrouded in mystery does not make me feel good about the Najee Harris situation. And unfortunately, we're going to have to just wait and see. But if the early draft yesterday is any indication of what's going to happen, his stock is going to plummet until further notice. So keep that in mind. Amari Hampton's stock has gone way up, and unfortunately, Najee Harris way down. Now, we still got more football to talk about. So when we come back, we're going to hit some NFL buzz, some backfields that are also going to be discussion points. We got a lot more football to go in the show. Don't go anywhere. More FST right after this.
Can you handle the heat? If If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I'm going to say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game, but somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. And during the break, the account just absolutely blowing up. More NFL content. It's what you need. It's what we're going to give it to you. And more baseball content as well. Well, guess what? Joey P's versatile and he can give it to you. Joe, before we get to some of the baseball stuff, the trade deadline winners, just some of the buzz going around the NFL. There's some buzz around Jet running backs, Giant running backs. There is a buzz in Indianapolis camp, as well as the Los Angeles Chargers, who I talked about this with Craig Mish on Newswire. I'm excited about that team. I think that offensive line is going to be really good, and evidently so does the quarterback.
Yeah, I want to start there with Justin Herbert. We can start at the bottom there because Herbert's a selection I actually made yesterday. It's a super flex league, and I got him as my second QB, nice. Going first round with Joe Burrow. And, I think people sort of, the short-term memory loss is hilarious sometimes. When you look back at the career so far of Justin Herbert, he set a rookie record for passing. Then he followed that up with a 5,000-yard passing season. And then, unfortunately, we've had some injuries and some issues. Even last year, people forget Justin Herbert had a foot issue going into the season. And my guess is that bothered him all year. He still put up 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. I know the playoff game left a bad taste in Charger fans' mouths and a lot of people too. All those turnovers. He had as many turnovers in that game as he had all year. But if you look at the QB finishes, he finishes QB9, QB2, QB11. And then in 2023, QB 17, when he was hurt, he only played 13 games. And then last year, new offense, new coach, and an injury, he was still QB 12. I think there's upside for a top 10 finish here, especially with Trey Harris acquired there potentially and Amari and Hampton, because he hasn't had a running back since Eckler who could really help him pad those stats, who can get you yards after a catch. And I think that is going to be a big difference maker. He didn't have it last year in that first year in that new Greg Roman offense to him. This year he does. And the whole notion all they're going to do is run the football. No, they're not. This is the NFL in 2025. They're going to do more than that. So don't sleep on Herbert. In terms of that Jets backfield, Braylon Allen is starting to work into a little bit of a 1A, 1B conversation with Breece Hall. And that should just be something you're aware of when you're drafting Breece. Braylon Allen, probably one of the better handcuffs if you do want to go that route. But it could hurt some of the volume of the Breece Hall members who are looking to go ahead and draft him early. Scatterbo taking reps of that starting offense. He's dealing with a hamstring issue right now. Hopefully he's going to be all right. We're a big fan of his on the show. And then Anthony Richardson looking sharper than Daniel Jones. But what does that mean? Let's read between the lines. They didn't say he looks sharp. He just looks sharper than Daniel Jones. Read between the lines, folks. Sometimes the beat reporters are telling you things. Sometimes you got to dig a little deeper in between all those. So again, that's the latest buzz going on. We'll have a lot more news, a lot more to go through over the week ahead as camps start to ramp up here. But Matt, I think it's time to get back to baseball, don't you, for a little moment?
Yep. Great job, as always, by you. I love Cryptic Joey, by the way. Tune in next week and see what happens. All right, MLB trade deadline winners and losers here. So on the winner's side, I think everyone can agree that San Diego Padres bolstered their bullpen as well as their offense. And I think they smell blood in the water that the Dodgers haven't just closed this whole thing out. I think the Padres think the Dodgers can be had, as do the Mets, as do the Phillies. They're on our winners list as well, as are the Yankees and the Mariners. Joe, of all these, who's the biggest winner of the winners?
I think it's the Mariners. I mean, I would also say the Phillies were a close second there because all they needed was that closer, I thought. But I think the Mariners extending that lineup, getting those two big bats with that pitching staff, to me, they were the biggest winners here. I really like what they did. And I think with that American League being so mediocre, Detroit not doing what they should have, I think now the Mariners have a clear path with MVP Cal Raleigh potentially to go ahead and get to the big dance this year finally for the first time. That'd be great.
Yeah. It would be electric. All right, and then the losers take us to the break. Who are the biggest losers here? The Tigers, the Twins, the Brewers, the Braves, the Pirates, or a team not listed?
No, it's the Tigers for me, I think, at the top. I don't love what the Twins did, but the Twins were in a kind of tenuous situation there. I wanted the Brewers to be more aggressive, but again, I guess a healthy Brandon Woodruff's just good enough for them, and they're getting such good productivity from Andrew Vaughn. I just don't know if that lasts. That's the only thing. So I would rather have had Suarez there, but I think they're just like, hey, we got this Vaughn kid for next to nothing for Aaron Savali, right? And all of a sudden, look what's gone on. I don't know if you want to buy into that, but the Tigers, man, the Tigers, I think, again, they didn't really get a big impact bat. They didn't get a big impact starting pitcher. I don't understand what's going on there. I don't think they are built for the postseason. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I fear this is going to be one of these seasons where they roll through a weak division and then they get in a short series with the Yankees or short series with the Mariners. And then all of a sudden, after School Bowl, what do you have? And do you have enough thump in that lineup, enough presence in that lineup and protection? I just don't know if you do. Tigers are a fun team. They're a good team. They're a scrappy team. I just don't know if they have enough star power yet to get it done in the playoffs. But we'll see what October brings. Always surprises. And certainly there'll be some surprises in the backfield this year as well when we try to draft. So who's the better value on the same team? We'll tell you when we return on SportsGrid.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. Let me say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payne. I like Jeremy Payne. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game. But somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here during the break, talking about how man has evolved, and then Joe kind of quipped out of the side of his mouth, or devolved. So that kind of tells you the mood that Joe is in. He's not entirely wrong, but I think the conversation is about how backfields in motion will evolve coming up to draft day. We're going to look at a few teams here, and what we want to focus on here, Joe, is the two running backs and their ADP. Do you choose running back A at ADP X? Would you prefer running back B at ADP Y? So let's have this conversation. We'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's Caleb Johnson. He's RB27 going at ADP 68. Or Jaylen Warren, RB32 at ADP 85. I remember you talking up Warren last year. It kind of didn't come to fruition for me, but is this the year?
Well, I thought Jaylen Warren could finally, in his third year, have a little bit of a breakout and see more receptions. And also, I was bullish because I thought we would get a little bit more, Justin Fields throughout this year, but we did not. Unfortunately, we got more Russell Wilson. And that's not what I wanted necessarily. But, I think with Jaylen Warren, again, the industry has always been way more in love with Jaylen Warren than I have. I thought maybe from PPR back standpoint, because maybe we can finally see him take a forward step with Najee Harris, maybe starting to get phased out a little bit, but that did not happen. And Warren missed time again. And now it's 3 straight years where he hasn't finished as an RB2, not even finished as an RB2. So I'm going to take the rookie Caleb Johnson, even though he costs a little bit more. I think the identity of this team is, run the football early, put Aaron Rodgers in some good third and short situations to make some good quick passes there. And it's always been the Steelers, right? Run the football, play defense. It's cold. It's Pittsburgh. It's tough. It's the steel curtain, all of that identity politics there. But also, Caleb Johnson looks to be the goal line back there too. And Aaron Rodgers is not a big mobile quarterback. All right. So we're looking at Caleb Johnson down at the goal line being the smashing guy. And if he's the smashing machine, that's the guy that I want. I want the touchdowns. I'll pay the ADP for Caleb Johnson. Because again, Jaylen Warren showed us health is a perennial issue for him. It's ever present. And in terms of the productivity, just has not been there. So the fact that people want to draft him where they do right now is kind of, I think it's a little absurd to me, to be honest with you, because Jaylen Warren still is not necessarily, I think, the guy who is going to be someone you can count on in any sort of weekly fashion. He'll get his carries, he'll get his targets, he'll get a few of them. But I think the big impact touches are going to come from Caleb Johnson and this Pittsburgh Steelers offense.
Great insight from Joe P. The takeaway there for me, Caleb Johnson at the goal line. And there's a 17 pick difference here between those two running backs. Let's move to the Denver Broncos. They have what I believe to be an elite offensive line. And now we have two running backs that have a 60 pick difference. RJ Harvey, RB21, ADP of 55. Or do you prefer the more tenured J.K. Dobbins, RB40 at ADP 115? Joe, what to do here?
Well, I'm definitely, it's funny. I did not love this J.K. Dobbins signing when it happened to give me pause about R.J. Harvey, but I will say this. R.J. Harvey might be the joker in this offense. Now, that joker role of Sean Payton, that's something we've seen Jimmy Graham do and be incredibly successful. It's seen Alvin Kamara do it sometimes, right? And you see how big of a star he was in fantasy. So if R.J. Harvey does get this role over Evan Ingram, because originally that was the thought process that Ingram could be the joker, but now it might be R.J. Harvey. That's the horse of a different color. He is expensive. Again, the 21st running back off the board, almost a top 50 player. But I think you go ahead and you take RJ Harvey because the upside there potentially is huge. And the draft capital was very large too. And I think it can only help Bo Nix. And we all know Bo Nix is not a guy who's going to be throwing the ball deep a lot. So that also helps RJ Harvey in his fantasy value. So I will pay the more expensive again here with the rookie RJ.
The rookie RJ Harvey.
Instead of the
All right, Joe, there you go. And Joe, quickly, can you, for the uninitiated, what is the joker role? What is that?
Well, that's that role that's going to go out. You might be in the backfield. You might be in the slot. You might be doing different things there. It's something that, again, Jimmy Graham was such a disastrous matchup for so many defensive backs and linebackers because of his size and speed, if people remember Jimmy Graham back in the day. But sure. Also Alvin Kamara from a speed standpoint. When you take Alvin Kamara from the backfield and all of a sudden just line him up in the slot, he is going to be breaking ankles out there. Those guys are not ready to necessarily go after him. And I think that is that role where you so much volume potentially, PPR leagues, you get all those points for the receptions. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just a lot there potentially with the Jay Harvey in the upside. And he is explosive enough that he can get you some big gains as well. So if he does end up in that role, that's a huge win for his fantasy value.
Thank you for the clarification. Let's move on here. The New York Giants, their schedule nor their offensive line is attractive to me, but you have Tyrone Tracy, who fumbled the ball 5 times last year and had a few eye-popping drops. He's RB30, ADP 82. We have Cam Scatterboo, RB35, ADP 100. And Joe, you have this great scenario. Week 3 or 4, something's going to happen in Giants Stadium. It's going to turn the league on its ear. What's up?
Well, look, it might even be week 1 where, again, Cam Scatterboo just trucks some linebacker and stands over him, and the crowd goes bananas. And the crowd begins to Scatterboo all over MetLife. And look, he's a very intense guy. And that's also to his detriment sometimes. He's dealing with a hamstring issue right now, which isn't great. And they had a little bit of a setback, quote unquote, with it. And he was throwing his helmet. Why? Because he probably came back too soon from that injury. So that is also something to keep in mind. You've seen this ADP gap between the two of them, though, close significantly over from July 1st to August 1st. And that's because of people like me talking up Scatterboo. And look, if you watch him play in college, is he the fastest guy in the field? No. Does he have more will than anyone else on the field? Yes. How that translates to the NFL, I'm going to be fascinated to watch, but I'm here for it. And if I'm going to take one of these guys, again, Scatterboo, I think, is way more apt to be the goal line back, especially with the fumble issues that you mentioned that Tyrone Tracy has. So, therefore, give me the guy who's got that dog in him, the guy that's got that goal line back in him, and he can also catch the football pretty well, too. Yep. So he's not a guy that can't do that. He is going to be better at blocking, more physical than Tyrone Tracy. So I think Scatterboo, even if it's not right away, over time becomes the back that you want in this offense. So I'm willing to just wait another round or even just invert that ADP. You know, like if you're looking around there and both these guys are on the board, I would just flat out in the same round take Scatterboo because I think projectability long-term this season is better for him than it is for Tracy.
Love it, love it, love it. Let's move on here. We'll go to the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy should be under center, keeping that in mind. Aaron Jones is RB26, an ADP of 66. And Jordan Mason, RB38, ADP of 101. What do we say to Jordan Mason? He's not in San Francisco anymore.
He's not, but I think he might get a lot more work than people realize. And this is one of my favorite running backs to draft later. But unfortunately, it looks like I'm not going to get my wish and get him as late as I want because the recent news is he's working again more as a 1A, 1B situation here with Aaron Jones. Now, that's great for Jordan Mason, but it's also starting to raise his ADP and lower Aaron Jones. At this current divide, I would take Jordan Mason just because he's cheaper and he's younger and he has less tread on the tires. And I think there was a reason they went out and acquired him. Aaron Jones had a good season last year. Aaron Jones isn't going to disappear. The only thing that can really change his backfield is injury. But again, Aaron Jones, you know, when you start to hit that 30, 31 years old, those guys, even though they're productive, they start to tail off. And I think Mason showed you last year, he can handle a significant workload. And I love that offense. Rookie QB, they're going to run the ball a lot more than you think this year in Minnesota.
All right, food for thought. Now let's stretch our legs here because we have the Jacksonville Jaguars in a very crowded situation. An RB33, ADP of 89 for Travis Etienne. RB43, an ADP of 128 for Tank Bigsby. An RB46 and an ADP of 136 for Bashul Tootin. So, Joe, my question to you is, why are Tootin and Bigsby so close?
Well, they're so close because nobody really understands what's going to happen in this backfield. Now, Travis Etienne is look, to be honest, Etienne is the home run swing here because he's only a year removed from being a top 5 fantasy running back. So if you want to really swing the fences with a Liam Cohen offense, it's Travis Etienne. He's also on the last year of his deal, which means you could be very well run him into the ground and then let him walk away. That's very possible. Bigsby is still useful. Bashul Tootin is really speedy and fun, but he is a rookie. So if I'm going to put my money somewhere, it's going to be on Etienne for that upside. Again, last year, the contract, just for perspective, the draft that I did yesterday, he went in round 11 to me. I took Etienne, and then 2 picks later, Tank Bigsby went. So it might be a lot closer than some of this ADP is suggesting of where guys are. We'll see in preseason. Perhaps we'll get a little bit more clarity in this backfield as the usage shows up in games. We'll be right back with more FST.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Want to hear a crazy stat, guys, with this Pittsburgh Pirate team? I brought this up yesterday. Out of 106 games, they have been involved in 27 shutouts, 13-4, 14 against. Over 1 out of every 4 Pittsburgh Pirate games ends in a shutout. How crazy is that?
Total is 8 tonight.
In-game live. Only on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sampson, Golf Channel, and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here. Remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. All the hosts and personalities here, we love interacting. We just love talking sports. And one of the things that commonly comes up, Joe, is looking at the tight end. Now, we have said it repeatedly on the show that tight end is touchdown equity. If you get a touchdown, you're flirting with tight end 1. It's pretty simple, right? It's a simple math here. Mm-hmm. So let's do some tight end targets, and let's break it down to the elites, the values, and then maybe the hidden gems and the wild cards. Let's really help some people out, because I think that's what people are looking for. Let's start with the elite. First name on the tip of your tongue is alliteration. It's Brock Bowers. Mm-hmm. How do you think he fits into this whole new system in Las Vegas?
Well, I think he's going to fit right in at home because he can have a better quarterback. And the fact that he did what he did last year with some really subpar quarterback play speaks to his talent. I remember Nick Saban was asked about, some of the guys in college that he has coached against right before he had retired and called it a career, and who was giving him a hard time. And he said, Brock Bowers. That was the first name off his list. He said, Brock Bowers is a problem. And I couldn't find a solution. So if Nick Saban can't find a solution to stopping Brock Bowers, I don't know what the rest of the league is going to be looking for in the NFL. But he's that good, and he's that talented. And I think it also helps that they brought in some more help, and they brought in Geno Smith. And Pete Carroll is a professional football coach, has been doing it for a very, very long time. And I think it's going to be very tantalizing for him to have this kind of a potential target there for his quarterback. And Brock Bowers last year, just off the charts, a little slow to start out of the touchdown gate, only 1 touchdown in the first. Yeah, in the first 8 weeks. That was kind of the story for him and McBride, right? The touchdowns were hard to come by for both of them. I think that'll be better this year for Bowers necessarily. He was still tight end 1 regardless. He had 112 receptions last year, almost 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think you could see a repeat of those reception numbers and those receiving yards. I don't think it's going to go quite past that. But if he gets 5 more touchdowns, that's going to be a huge difference maker. That's like a 30-point difference potentially there for Brock Bowers. And with McBride, another guy too, a huge target hog in his offense. The conversions, that was the big problem. Could they get this guy the football in the red zone? And they just couldn't do it. He went without a touchdown all the way until week 17, and he had one week 17 and 18. So, I mean, the fact that he had just 2 touchdowns all year with 111 receptions is absurd. But the good news for both these guys is touchdown regression usually happens. So when the touchdowns are low one year, they tend to pop back around. You just want to see that usage and the target volume show up in the red zone area for both these guys. I'm not worried about it at all with Brock Bowers. I'm only slightly concerned with it when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals because of the enigmatic Kyler Murray, who just gives off the vibes he doesn't want to be there. George Kittle is not, to me, quite elite in this grouping. I know some people will argue that, but I will say this. I drafted George Kittle yesterday. George Kittle at value might be a better fantasy investment this year than either of those two, and I'll tell you why. He's cheaper than both of them. Bowers typically goes in the early second round. McBride, late second round, early third round. Kittle can go anywhere from right in the third round to even fifth round, depending on your draft. And the later he goes, the more intriguing he is. And he's the only piece of that San Francisco 49ers attack that I actually feel comfortable with, that I know he's healthy and I know he's going to play and I know what his role is. I don't know about Ayuk. I don't know about Jennings. None of us will ever know about Christian McCaffrey again, because I can't believe anything the 49ers ever tell us. And you're looking around, and Ricky Pearsall is a great talent, but I haven't seen it really yet come to fruition. So Kittle's the one thing you can count on. So those are the three guys in that mix for the top, but Kittle might be a best return on investment than all three.
I'm loving it, and I'm loving the theme here from you, Joe, is about finding those players if they slip to you, finding the way to value them against the rest of the board, against your peers. We often talk about ADP is really just polling. All right, let's continue to talk value here. We have three more tight ends from Minnesota, TJ Hawkinson. Everyone's excited about him. We talked about Isaiah Likely having some foot surgery, so enter Mark Andrews. And then I talked about this on Newswire with our esteemed Craig Mish. I think Evan Ingram, and he's here, has a great opportunity. Bo Nix is going to need some kind of valve if and when Sutton receives double coverage. The offensive line will give him time. A lot of people are high on Marvin Mims, but I think Evan Ingram's the guy. But let's talk about the values.
Yeah, Ingram is really intriguing too, because he's just a year removed from being tight end 2. Now that was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, different scenario, but he had 114 receptions that year. Evan Ingram also right now, age of 30, coming off a really injury-plagued season. So that's where you're getting a discount. It is a new offense, new quarterback, new situation. But I think one you should be cautiously optimistic about, because the average depth of target for Bo Nix when he's successful is short. So what does that mean? Intermediate routes there. That means potential for the tight end. And nobody really stepped up last year in that tight end room for the Broncos. So that's a big addition here this offseason. They didn't add another big wide receiver, but they did add Harvey and Ingram. The other two guys, I think that's really my wheelhouse of value at tight end this year. I'm going to let the top guys go typically, unless I get a huge value on George Kittle. And I'm going to pivot to Mark Andrews, who Mark Andrews started off slow last year. He was in a car accident, right? And I feel like everybody forgets that. And then we all saw him play. We're like, why isn't he very good at football? Well, maybe his body wasn't feeling good. Maybe his mental situation wasn't good. But this is one of those things where you should pay attention to what happens and less about what the team tells you about it, because these teams are getting worse and worse about really giving you the truth. So Mark Andrews, when he was healthy, he led all tight ends in touchdowns in the second half of the year. He had 10 touchdowns from week 7 on. He was tight end 4 over that period. Okay, so let's talk about how good Mark Andrews was, and not the ball he dropped moving backwards in the snow in Buffalo as the lasting image of Mark Andrews. And Isaiah Likely being hurt to start the year also goes in Andrews' favor. Don't forget about TJ Hawkins, too. That's another one, too, that JJ McCarthy, young quarterback, they tend to favor the tight ends. I think this year, another big target should be TJ Hawkinson. He could have a huge season with McCarthy in his rookie year.
All right, Joe, now it's time for you to earn the big bucks. The hidden gems. Let's go.
Well, look, there's a couple of those guys, right? Tucker Kraft, again, with that wide receiver core being sort of open for business, and Matthew Golden being a rookie, and, you know, can Jaden Reed kind of bounce back? Tucker Kraft, I think, was pretty solid last year, and I think he could actually get a little bit more this season as everyone's trying to get a more defined role. That hurt the Packers last year. And Jake Ferguson, although Pickens is there, I think people are forgetting about Ferguson. Yes, Pickens will pick up more targets, sure. But at the same time, Ferguson's not going to be lost. Dak always loves to go to the tight end. Ever since he was still a rookie with Jason Witten, he was going to the tight end. So don't lose the sense of Ferguson too. If the tight end runs happen without you, don't worry about it. You can find guys like Tucker Kraft. You can find guys like Ferguson, and you can make up some ground there. And there are a couple other guys too worth talking about. We come back, we're going to look at some wild card tight ends too, who are being drafted outside of tight end 1, where maybe you take 1 or 2, and if one of them hits, you might be A-okay. Don't go anywhere. We'll tell you those names when we return.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Want to hear a crazy stat, guys, with this Pittsburgh Pirate team? I brought this up yesterday. Out of 106 games, they have been involved in 27 shutouts, 13-4, 14 against. Over 1 out of every 4 Pittsburgh Pirate games ends in a shutout. How crazy is that?
Total is 8 tonight.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sands from Golf Channel and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today, Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia, part of an amazing cast of characters on a great network. Stick around, more quality programming coming. A tip of the cap to Preston Polish behind the glass on the 1s and 2s and Rob Zombie on the sticks. They're part of our production team. They gave us this show. Joe, it's funny. Right before we came back from break, we were talking about pretty much greed. So I want to put it out there to the folks at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Tag us here. Is greed good? And if so, why? That's out for social media. We'll monitor it. We'll have our conversation.
This is where
So
the teacher comes out in you. This is what happens.
Seriously,
The teacher,
everyone has
Mr. Stryker, what's today's essay assignment, Mr. Stryker?
Everyone has a different theory, Joe, in sports wagering and gambling. And when you go to the casino, is sometimes you walk away from the table when you've had it. Is greed good? This is a sports wagering and an odds-centric fantasy network and show. Is greed good, or is too much just a little too much? We'll have that conversation. We still have to talk about the wild card positions at tight end, and then we'll talk about 3 things that Joe's looking forward to in the coming week, because Joe's not a greedy guy. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I think desire is a good motivator. Greed might take you down the wrong path sometimes. And look, some people are going to get real greedy at tight end, and those runs are going to happen, and you might find yourself out of the loop. And if you do, don't worry. There's some names to take some shots on that might have some upside. And this is the scenario where you just couldn't pass on a quarterback value. You just couldn't pass on another wide receiver you loved or more running back depth. And you look up, you go, oh my God, I got no tight end. What am I going to do? You're going to take some shots. And here's some guys to take some shots on. Tyler Warren, rookie from Penn State, just an awesome player. Reminds me a lot of George Kittle, actually, potentially. Is it the best scenario with the Indianapolis Colts? No, we don't know exactly who's the starting quarterback. We think it's Richardson. How's that going to go? How's he going to play? Is he going to stay healthy? Daniel Jones is, well, Daniel Jones. So there's a lot of problems there. I'm sorry, Preston. I know you're a Colts fan. I don't want to depress you here at work. But, we're going to just keep it real here on the program, as we always do. But Warren is a guy we're taking a shot on because he does have a ton of talent. Jonnu Smith is reunited with Arthur Smith, and he did really use him quite a bit in Atlanta. And last year you saw him really blossom with the Mike McDaniel offense. They don't really have a second pass catcher to go to necessarily in Pittsburgh outside of DK Metcalf. So it wouldn't shock me if Jonnu Smith became a thing. Again, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a great history with making tight ends really super fantasy relevant, but different offenses, different times, different Aaron Rodgers with different arm strength too. Dalton Kincaid, I know we keep waiting for Dalton Kincaid to emerge, another great college player, but it's never really been consistent here with Buffalo. Could this be the year? It's possible. The offensive ecosystem is really good. Kyle Pitts, another guy too, Michael Penix, is he the guy to unlock Kyle Pitts? It's not impossible. He is lining up in the slot a little bit and working a little bit at wide receiver. So if the regime with Michael Penix here under center starts to look for different opportunities to get Kyle Pitts to football, maybe, just maybe it could be his year. I also would throw Colston Loveland in that, another rookie with the Chicago Bears. Now, don't forget, Sam Laporta was a rookie when Ben Johnson, his offensive coordinator, made him a huge part of that Detroit Lions offense. So don't sleep on that one, especially if you're in a 14-team league. Like, you could take a shot on a couple of these guys and maybe one of them hits, or you play matchups. Teams that don't defend the tight end well, you play them when you can, and you just hope for the best here. And again, as Matt said, you hope for that TD. But again, don't get upset. All is not lost if you miss out on a tight end. There's plenty of names out there to take a couple calculated risks, and hopefully one of them pays off. But if you can avoid this, try. Kraft, Ferguson, those are guys that you can still draft and be like, all right, I can set it and forget it. And those guys are a little less headache than what these 4 or even 5 with Loveland could potentially be.
Joe, I love it. It's been a fantastic show. While the dog days of August are upon us, remember, there's still a lot of money to be made on baseball. If you're still out there betting on baseball, we're here with you. We're going to talk more next week. Football is coming, folks, and that's where a lot of us make our money. Joe, give me a few things you're looking forward to this week, and when we reconvene, God willing, next week, we'll talk about them.
God willing, we'll all be here, just like my grandma used to say every single time. All right, we'll see you, I'll see you next week. God willing. God willing. All right, let's get to, I know, right? But look, this has been a fun show as always. I want to shout out our producers working today and our technical directors too. Not used to working with us. Schedules got moved around, and luckily they're here, and somehow they drew the short straw on a Sunday morning and had to get up early and hang out with us. So shout out to the gang there. Let's get to the 3 and out here. Start with Terry McLaurin, because that's what we need. We need clarity. Don't trade Terry McLaurin. Stop screwing around. Pay the man. You got money. Just do it. Figure it out. Don't be ridiculous, Commanders. If you don't, you're going to have your big star quarterback potentially take a step backwards next year. Let's talk about camp injuries. Keep an eye on a lot of these. A lot of them are popping up. Some of them are important. Some of them aren't, and we don't get issues and answers. That's a problem. And the bullpens. Let's keep an eye on those bullpens and MLB as well. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on from Madam Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
My mind, I was able to think and process. And if I let him get back up, he's going to get back up. I was like, let me finish this right now. And I caught him with that left hook, and then I caught him again with that right hook just to make sure the job was done, because I was calculating his hands wasn't touching the ground and his knees weren't touching the ground, but I know he was still going down. To make sure he wasn't get back up, I had to let those last 2 off, man.
Combat Sports Report. Only on SportsGrid.
He's just only 2,300 points behind. So even if he does win at Memphis, he's still going to be behind Scottie Scheffler in the points by 300. So why? I mean, I want Scottie Scheffler to show up in Memphis, but does he need to? If Rory's not showing up and the third place guy, even if he wins, isn't going to pass him?
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
What do you make of the season that Barkley had last year as he piled on the yards to get over 2,000, and what can that look like this year?
His year could have been much better with different circumstances here. So he was great. I assume he'll be great again. You want to take Jahmyr Gibbs? I don't have an issue with it, but, Barkley, you're going to lose the tush push.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Big Fish is the best player in the WNBA. She is running away with the MVP award. Why is that? Caitlin Clark, injured. Asia Wilson, not playing at Asia Wilson level, but it's more about the fact about what's around her has been an issue. So to me, Fish is almost like the MVP because everyone else has gone down in some way, shape, or form.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.